So in this demonstration, I'm going to show you how the Time Connect solution for Dynamics can connect the platform with external timesheet systems. This can be done via API or via extracting a data file from that system. So in this case, I'm going to show you how we work with a system called Harvest, but this will actually work with basically any timesheet systems out there. We just like Harvest because it provides a really nice mobile app and some good plugins for both Outlook, the browser, and a nice web interface that makes it super easy to register time on projects. So this is Harvest, and in here I'm just going to go in to my reports, and I want to extract a detailed report of, let's say, all of the time submitted last month. So there we go. And I'm going to export that as a CSV file and save that to my local drive. And call it Harvest Time. And now that's saved on my local drive, I can now go back to Dynamics. And in here, the Time Connect solution actually sits within the project management and accounting module. And the first thing we need to do is import the file. So I'm going to expand the periodic tab here. And you can now see that there's a Time Connect tab available. This will give us access to both importing and processing transactions. So I'm going to select that file. Harvest Time. Okay. So the system now imports this file into a staging area where we can review the transactions and see if there's any errors. So if I go to Inquiry and Reports, then in here we also have a Time Connect tab where we can see our imported transactions. And here they are, and it all looks fine. And against each transaction, you can see that there's an import status. So imported just means that right now it's in the staging table. If it had been processed, then the status would have been processed, and if there had been any error during the processing stage, the transaction would have been in status error, allowing you to make any necessary adjustments before reprocessing. So now we verified that they are in here. Then we'll go back to the periodic job, and on the Time Connect we now need to process our transactions. And this can obviously be set up into a batch job, so users don't have to do this themselves. It just becomes fully automated. So now that I run that job, the system will now transfer my records from the staging table into our journal in the project management and accounting module. And as it's doing that, it will apply all of the mapping and the rules that we have configured as part of the Time Connect solution. So I'll go to Journals, Hour, and we can now see that there's a journal here waiting for me to review. And at the same time, the journal also has the date from the earliest transaction to the latest transaction within the journal, just making it easy to see what period this covers. So if you open up the lines, then in here, you can see that they've been transferred just fine. We got our transaction date. It has assigned the transactions to a project. It's identified what category is appropriate for that particular transaction. It has also automatically assigned a resource to the transactions and brought in the descriptions from the timesheet system. It's also been able to identify whether or not this is a billable or non-billable transaction. So the last thing to do now is basically just to either post a journal, or if you have workflows around this, then submit it for workflow to get a final approval. So now that we've seen how to process the transactions end to end, then we're just going to dive into some of the underlying configuration and mapping. And again, everything is held within the project management and accounting module. And if I go to setup and the project management and accounting parameters, then once this add-in is installed, then you would have a Time Connect tab in here, where we can just configure a little bit about the behavior. So we can define a standard journal that's being used when we import the transactions. We can tell the system to use the cost and sales prices provided by the external timesheet system. So this completely comes down to how certain businesses want to essentially control that cost and sales, if they want to allow Dynamics to do that or the external system. Then for the file itself, if we are importing that, then we can set up a couple of parameters that just tells the system what format the file is using. So that's the behavioral side of it. Then if we go down to mapping the various attributes, then on the setup we also have a Time Connect tab now, and in here we can set up our mappings which are used when we process the transactions. So if we start off with the file mapping, then this table allows you to tell the system that what the various field names in the file are and what field they map to in the staging table. Then when it comes to the attributes, then we will go to our category mappings, and in here we can go in and we can define the category name from our external system, and we can map that to a Dynamics category. Then on the line properties, we can again go in and we can map the source value to various line properties in Dynamics, and this is what then allows us to identify what's billable or non-billable based on the external feed. And last but not least, we can also go in and we can map the external project names to the Dynamics project names. And the reason we implemented all of these mappings is just because that a lot of these external systems, because they're mobile friendly, they don't all work with IDs, so we need some kind of mapping functionality. And that's actually the underlying mapping and setup for the Time Connect.